All right, I think I got everything set up so that it's going to go to multiple things instead of just Twitch. We'll see how that works. I was really dumb after that OBS reinstallation to fix that voice problem. But I think everything should be ready to go. Yeah, 3 of 3. Okay, we're in good shape. First, I was thinking, which is dangerous, but I do it anyways. We're going to go to Load Tool, and we're going to go to our streaming, and we did a Stuffed Shark yesterday. Did a polypaint variant. Move this down here. So we got a polypaint variant, and I'm also going to switch this material out so we can see it a little bit better. We'll go down here to our Skin Shader 4, and oh, I thought it was a polypaint variant, but this doesn't look polypainted at all. Well, let's do it. So I think if we go darker on the top here, and we got just turn RGB on, see that off, or you can go to BP paintbrush. Oops, paintbrush. That'll have those same settings. So we'll go through here. We'll go ahead and turn off. Tap L to turn off our lazy mouse. And actually, let's go ahead and turn on X symmetry. I think that'll work a bit better. So this one will kind of be a stuffed variant here. You know what? And I probably should look at Great White Shark. Let's look. Dark on the top, white on the bottom, and it's actually pretty delineated, which I don't know if I was expecting that or not. Hey, thanks for showing up. Today should be a fun one. I don't know why I think that, but why not? Let's have fun. So we're going to go through here, and again, oh, I'm not used to using the paintbrush. I'll just switch over to standard brush because I have a hotkey for that. I don't have a hotkey for the paintbrush, which I don't know, maybe I should look into. So we can go through here. You know what I'm wondering is if I can run a noise, I can add noise to my brush. What I'm trying to look for, this is probably fine. If I'm just doing like a stuffed weirdo shark type thing, this is fine. But if I wanted to put some noise along here, what I could do, I'm going to hit C to inherit this color up here. Hey everybody. And we're going to go to, it looks like my chat is working, Twitch, YouTube. Good. Excellent. So what I was thinking is maybe if I go over here to surface, add surface noise to my brush while I'm using it. And let's play around with these settings a little bit here, and let's play around with that scale as well. And I don't necessarily want any height, but I think I can control that, so I'll hit OK. I just have RGB turned on, so now when I'm painting, I can actually go through here and it'll kind of paint noise along here, but it's doing black and white. So let's, we want to do mix the color blend down to like 0.5 maybe? No. We just want to do darker. Let's try that. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to work. Okay, that works okay. So if you could figure out a nice noise that you can paint through, let's see, I mean, it's going to be a little bit dark, so let's go a little bit lighter here. Or can I go into edit? And then this color, okay, so this color right here, I'm going to pick and drag, and I'm just going to choose this dark gray color. So that'll set that color a little bit more appropriately, and then let's play around with this a little bit more. Let's go ahead and reset this. Noise plug, open. I could probably go and check and see if there is any decent noises, but I'm going to guess for what I'm looking for, probably not. So we're looking for like maybe just kind of getting a little bit of a sharper detail along here when we're using this brush. And then, so we got that, that's kind of sharpened up, and then you can play around with the scale to see if you want to have bigger or larger splotches here. That should be about right. Then hit OK. And now, I mean, that doesn't matter great. I don't know. I mean, it's not great. Also, let's go over here to focal shift, and that might be part of it too, where we can kind of clean up. You can do focal shift, or if you're not into that, you can go over here to alpha. We can just pop in like an alpha 06. That'll kind of tighten up those lines a little bit. So you can go through here, and then we can hit C, and let's see if that noise paints. Yeah, we'd have to go through and switch our noise to paint out of that. So in this case, I would turn off surface noise, and then I would go through here, paint up. a little bit, and again we have alpha, so it's a little bit tighter on that edge detail. And you can also drop your RGB intensity if you just want to kind of feather it in, but this is pretty sharp. And since this guy's different stitches, I'll stop along that seam just to reinforce the idea that there's a big stitch right down here. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it doesn't really read like a stuffed animal. Reads more like a water toy, which is not a bad thing, I suppose, and given the context of the character. Let's go ahead and say kind of fades over here. Good enough. And then we'll hit C, and let's paint the tops of these a little darker. And then the top of there, yeah, that's actually, trying to see if there's a bottom. Oh, okay. This would actually be pretty dark. So we'll go ahead and fill this in. And now when you're painting through, depending on your brush width, it could paint all the way through your object. That's where you'd go into backface masking. It's under brush auto masking settings. And you can stop it from going through. And I have that in my interface because I use it enough. I have also at work, I've taken to building in any brushes that I want to build in backface masking or build in any sort of settings. I'll just go through and I'll save it over the defaults under ZData, brush presets, just because you know, for demo purposes here, I tend to be like, I want to work with as much vanilla ZBrush as I can. But boy, it is nice just to have things set up and ready to go the way I want them to. There we go. So something like this, and we can tap C, and we can go through and we can kind of paint down. So that'll kind of give them a little bit more of that great white kind of look. Now the stitch is a little bit, I don't know if that white works all that well, or you can do whatever color you want really. But if we alt tap that, let's try black. You're losing contrast up here, but I like it more around the mouth here. So let's tap this one, color, fill, oops. Drag this back out. Fill object. And then let's go really dark on this. And the materials and stuff I could change in here, and we could do a ZBrush render if we wanted to play around with that. And maybe we could do some like the caustics inside of Photoshop. But hey, can this model be bent with bend curve option of Gizmo? Yes. Now this is all different subtools, so you'd have to do, there's a couple, not hoops you'd have to jump through, but yeah, let's go ahead and pose this guy out. So a couple different options. Number one, if this is made up of multiple subtools, if it's made up of multiple subtools, then yeah, it would, there's a couple different ways you go about it. You could go into move multiple, which if we go into move multiple here, when you hit your gizmo, and I'm going to go ahead and reset this. I like seeing things right down the middle here, and then we'll tap X to go out of that. So if I want to move all of these subtools at once, I'll just unhash everything so that everything is unhashed. And go ahead and set this gizmo here. And then you can try, let's gizmo a lot of times, let's go back into Q, let's turn X to go out of X symmetry. A lot of times those things don't really work that well. And you could go into bend curve or bend arc, and then you can go through here and bend things, but I'm pretty sure this is only going to bend, the deformers only work across one subtool even with multiple. So that's not really going to really help us in this case. However, what we could do, there's another option. There's a couple options, but we can go in here to, now if you wanted to just mask and move stuff around, you could do that. So we have move multiple. We can't really use a deformer, I don't think, unless I'm missing something. But we can go in here and we can say, okay, let's alt tap this, and we're going to, oh, are you guys on 2020.1? I didn't notice anything in the release notes that indicated I needed to demo anything, but shout it out if something changed that you guys want to see. I don't really know if I know exactly what I need to do, but oh yeah, so if we want to, I'm going to make this a little bit more difficult. So we're going to go across here and we're going to cut across two subtools and we're going to mask this out. Now the difficult part is I would have to go in here to the stitches here and kind of mask along that same area, and then even kind of blur it the same amount, so that when I go through here and we invert that mask, so if I want to rotate this tail around, I can go in here to move multiple, and everything's masked that I want to have masked. I can go ahead and reset this, and then we have X turned off, and then now, there we go. And then of course we have to go back into the teeth here and mask those off, and the eyeballs and mask those off, and this. Or no, actually we don't have to do that, because we have move to multiple turned on. And now I'm just concerned about moving the body and the stitches. The rest of it I'll just ignore, which is what we're looking for. So now we can reset this here, and now it'll just move those two. But you know, those stitches, ooh, it's a tough one. And see how it's stretching over here? So a better option may be, let's go out of move multiple mode, is if we go into Z plugin, transpose master. Now I would only use transpose master if I had subdivision history for every single object, or in this case, fake subdivisions for all my objects. I'm going to go through here. And the reason for that is you don't want to take 25 million polygons into subtool master that doesn't have subdivision history, because what it's going to, or transpose master, because what it's going to do is when you go to transpose mesh, let's go and get a white color, it's going to merge everything, and then now you have access to everything merged, and if it's a lot of polygons here, it's going to be really difficult. But now I can go through and I can mask like this, and then we can control tap the, actually it might be better, let's back way off here, and then we're just going to unmask through here. I'm just trying to get this fall off the same across the stitches in the body, and then now we can go and set this pivot, and we can do a little bend. And yeah, you are going to get some stretching over here, but I mean, that's kind of what happens when you move verge around. And some compression over here. Now this could be a thing where it's like, well, you could rig this thing and go in and paint weights and make this work. But boy, that's a lot of production just for going in here and doing a little bit of cleanup. So we can go through, and you are going to get some actual stretching and compression even in real life when these things pull on each other. Now you're not going to be able to subdivide this and get much detail in here, but we're not really looking for that. What we're looking for is just the big reeds here, just for the big reeds for your pose. And you know what? Let's do, on this one, since it all is merged, you could go in here and you could do, and it's low res enough so it's not going to tax it too much. You could go in here to bend arc, and it kind of stretches it, but that's kind of cool. That's kind of an interesting thing. A little bit more control might be going in here to bend curve and then picking your axis. So we're going to go down the midline axis here, and then we'll go ahead and throw in some resolution. Now, I've already moved the tail, so that's going to be a little bit weird, but I mean, it still gives you plenty of leeway. So we can go through here and we can kind of move this stuff around and really kind of pose this out. And again, if you need to sculpt any corrections, you can definitely do that. And let's go over here and we'll just grab that tail and really kind of, then you can also go through here and you can do a twist and scale and pinch. And then when you're across more, I mean, if I hadn't moved that tail, look at that, do a little jig there. Let's see, and again, you're just kind of, so here he is, he's kind of leaning into a turn maybe, kind of drop that down, and then we could, oof, yeah, oh, this is so fun. I mean, heck, maybe we do want to kind of exaggerate that a bit. Okay, so I got this. We're feeling good about it, and then we can go hit Q to go back into draw mode. And now you do also have access to your poly groups, which I apparently lost. Well, let's do this. I wouldn't have lost those, right? Oh. Was this a version that I hadn't UV'd? That seems weird to me. Really? Huh. Oh, yeah, when it merges, it's going to lose your UVs. You know what? We could fix that later. So let's do this. Let's do transpose master. Transpose back to my subtool. So here we're working on a merged copy, but it's going to go, let's go back to my subtools, and you go ahead and match all the rest of them. Now, the other things that weren't visible, obviously, these eyes here and the mask we were working on, if we wanted it to follow along, we'd have to have those things visible, but that's okay. So we got everything moved, and now if I go into, I have the body selected. Okay, there's my polygroups back. And then we can also hit W and then Control Tap here, and that's going to unmask just this polygroup. We can Control Tap along the body here to maybe feather that mask, and then we can go through here and we can be like, oh, it's mask on, it's polygrouped on both sides. I forgot. It is symmetrical. And then we can go through here and we can just grab maybe this one. And in fact, let's do this. Let's hold down Alt and move our pivot so it's right down the arm here. And let's see if we can't drop in a bend curve on this here. Well, we could still do it. We could say, ooh, it's going to be high poly though. We could say free subdivision levels. We're not adding geometry. Let's try it. Hit free subdivision levels. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to say bend curve. And let's reset this here, because really I just want it to go along that masked area, and sometimes it will do it. Maybe not. I mean, you can still kind of get there. Sometimes I get that to work, sometimes not. But it is still low res, but I'm going to go ahead and undo back to where we just had our subdivision levels, because there's no point in freezing your subdivision levels if you can just simply drop down and kind of go through and rotate this. So if we're going through here, we'll maybe kind of lift this up and push this down a little bit. And same thing over here. Now you could go into auto masking, brush, auto masking, and you could do topological, or in this case, mask by polygroups is what I'm really looking for. So I can go through here and I can move just these polygroups and not have to worry about it grabbing anything. Let's turn on perspective so we can really get an eyeball on like what kind of distortion we're going to get. So if we're going to go through and we're going to do like a pose like this, you can actually go through here and you can over crank it. Let's go ahead and go back up here. We could go into our draw menu and you can say, you can try 85, 50, 35, 28, 24, 18, and now we're getting a very extreme view here. Say 28. Now if I did want to take this into KeyShot or another external rendering program, KeyShot I can just hit D for dynamic and it's fine. It'll send that over here, so I can say smooth subdiv of 3. Make sure those teeth are nice and smooth, and then same thing for these threads here. 3. You can also in KeyShot, instead of just throwing a huge amount of subdivisions on here, you could just go through and do a geometry smooth by normal geometry edit, and then set the normals so that if you can just bring in a low res object and just have that work. But in this case, I think that's fine. And then we're still on Skin Shader 4. I think we're good. So we did a little posing. Oh, you know, it's not going to work. Well, I mean, I guess the inside of a shark mouth is kind of light and white, but let's do this. Let's isolate this little piece here. And I'm going to go in here with some red. So I'm going to start dark red. And you know what? We can just do this. Let's start light red, color, fill object, and then we'll go to dark red. And just along the back here, we can go to solo mode. And again, we'll turn off L. And we can start filling in this here. And let's also drop down our RGB intensity. There we go. And if you want to paint from the back, it might be a little bit easier. Go into display properties double. And temporarily, so display properties double, you can go in here and, oh, don't hit flip. Sometimes flip will work, and you can just paint on the backside, but maybe because it has subdivision history, it's not totally keen on that. Because you can always flip it, and then you can flip it back before you bring everything else back. So now we've got this here. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this. Posed. And just for fun, I want to try something else. Oops. We're going to go to external renderer KeyShot, and I want to turn off auto merge. It was doing some weird stuff yesterday for very little reason, I think. Because usually I think auto merge is a threshold where it's not going to bother merging unless it's over a certain threshold. I don't think this one would meet that threshold, but it was auto merging the eyeballs with the threads, so meh. Okay, sorry if I missed stuff. I'm a little bit behind here. I'm good, I'm good. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Try an alpha spray stroke in color. Hey, John, that's a really good point. I tried to be fancy and be like, well, on the brush we could have it do its thing. But obviously, yeah, you could go through and just have an alpha and then stamp the color you want. So we'll do that when we hop back into ZBrush. So through here, let's go ahead and say, I'm going to right-click this and move it. And we'll get them. I want that floor on there. That's fine. But another thing we need to do. Oh, wait a minute. I may have, there we go. So you guys can all see it. Come on. Come on. Okay, that doesn't want to get smaller. That's okay. So we got this, and just real quick, we can do, I'm just going to double click this here. We're going to go to the material graph, and we're going to say you don't be legacy, upgrade to new node, and then over here we can play around with what the heck is going on here. Brightness and contrast on that skin shader. And then for this, oh my gosh, every time. Preferences, maybe there's probably an upgrade that I need to do. Switch it out to Maya. There we go. Now, easy would be hard, shiny plastic for the teeth and black for the eyeball. And then not necessarily, I don't want textured, but just maybe some plastic for these stitches, and then I'm just going to reuse the plastic for that stitch here. There we go. Now we're nice and updated. So let's choose again. I didn't look for an undersea environment, so I'm just going to try some out, and also we'll go back to the environment over here. Say color, and we'll do a darker blue here. It's like, okay, yeah, that is pretty saturated. Geez, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing here is pretty saturated, and there's a gradient back here. But what I do want to try is, I guess we can keep that. Outdoor. And then we'll go over Control, and then left click, drag. We go ahead and set the lighting up in here. We can also do our own lighting. So what we did yesterday was we did an edit, add geometry plane, and it worked okay for like setting water, but I'm wondering if we need actual volume to the liquid in order to get really the kind of look we were going for, which I'm not sure. But basically, if we had this and then we went into water on our materials, and then instead of doing just a light, we could do a sun and sky here. So we'll just do a midday. And say okay on this one, sun and sky, and then you go in here and edit this. Yeah, no. Boy, that seems sharp, doesn't it? But what I was thinking is if we went in here into Edit, Add Geometry Cube, we'll just try it. You don't know unless you try. So we're going to go through here And we got our cube, and let's apply our water on that. Keep those separate. Go into scene here, and then we'll kill that plane. Say okay. Oh, you know what would help? I think. Okay, let's go back to that plane again because we have to have we can't just have preview lighting in order to get that to work. And that's actually okay. That's actually all right. But let's check out the cube there. Ooh, now he's just in a cube of water. Yeah. Hmm. That might work a little bit better. But anyway, maybe play around with those settings here. Let's see here. But yeah, honestly, I think that would work. Let's go into our environment here, and then we got sun and sky, so we can do time, turbidity, sun size, blur, ground color. This is all fine. And I like to have other reflections here. See if anything strikes my fancy here. Yeah, that seems like the sun and sky gave us the best results. But now we're in ZBrush here, and what we're going to do is, oh yeah, so on here, when we were painting this dark and light color, you go into your alpha here, and you can kind of paint along the sides. So like obviously, when you go through here, and we have RGB turned on, we'll go ahead and crank that intensity up a little bit. And over here in the alpha, you can go through here and you can modify this as well if you want to do an alpha adjust, or simply just go in here and do like a contrast. Right here, you can make it a little more contrasty to sharpen those edges up, maybe a little less blurry, or the opposite. So we're going to hit C to inherit this. And if you had an alpha that was like nice and grainy, you could also do a drag dot stroke. So you can just kind of drag it along here. And you can also do a drag rect stroke. So you can just kind of drag it out along here. And then we can hit C on this one, and we can kind of drag up. And you can break up those things here. Now, it's going to be kind of contingent on you finding an alpha or making an alpha that will kind of work for what you're looking for, that'll kind of match. This one might work. So kind of go through here and kind of use this to break it up. Or if you prefer, go through here and use drag dot. Like so. And you can probably put in some, you can try a spray stroke, but that gets a little bit unwieldy. So let's go ahead and get rid of my Camtasia recorder. You guys don't need to see that there. And then the opposite, hit C, and then go through here and kind of come down. There we go. And thank you, John Yu. I mean, yeah, let's try. Again, you don't know until you try. So spray stroke. If you can get, oh, you know what you could do? So here's color spray. You could, which we probably don't want. I just want to keep it those two colors. But you can go in here to alpha and texture, and you can say poly paint mode. If we just do maybe 5 of just darken, no. I'm trying to do it so that it just, standard color 3, multiply, I think it's going to have the same result. Yeah, I'm trying to get it to where, normal should probably work fine. So go through here, and if we set both of these to the same, shoot, okay, 45, 45, 45. I'm just going to have to eyeball that, I guess. Or we can go in here to color. That's set. And if I want to click that, I can just click here and drag off and grab that one. There we go. So now they're both the same. And then under the stroke options, brush, stroke modifiers, placement, flow, color. Spray placement scale. Color intensity variance. Let's change that to like 0. Okay, there we go. Change your color intensity variance to 0 and see if that'll kind of go through there. It kind of has a little bit of a fade effect, which may be what you're looking for. And you could also try, going to your brush alpha and using that contrast to your advantage, or also taking your focal shift down so it doesn't have that built-in fade. I don't know. Have fun with it. Okay. What about a folded belt? Can it also be posed with bend curve? Yeah, basically anything that, as long as you make the belt straight and then you use bend curve to put the points along there and move it, you can do whatever you'd like with bend curve. Live project on detailed car modeling. Oh yeah, I'll just do a really super detailed car live. If I could do that, then I definitely would do that. You wouldn't want to see me do a car. Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you, Zignot. Let's see. Updates. There's a bunch of fixes. Updated clip size. No, it'll be a morph UVs mode. Okay. Renaming subtools first letter will. So subtools with the first letter will no longer be capitalized automatically. That's kind of cool. I don't think you guys need a demo on that, but that's definitely interesting. Projection master is now Shift G. Menus button, plugin updates, UV master, automatically selects paintbrush. That's the paintbrush we were using earlier. Right tray, open close right tray, macros, 3D print hub restored. Yeah, I don't know. If you guys see anything in here, shout it out, and I could give it a shot. Trying to Boolean through a subtool as a start in a folder of 10 subtools, but it didn't work as predicted, so I had to use the folder Boolean first that added a unified mesh of the folder under the stack, and then I got the effect needed, even if its visibility is off. Trying to do a Boolean through a subtool as a start group and a folder of 10 subtools. The folder of 10 subtools is probably what's going to hinder you there. I don't usually do things that complex. My brain just doesn't allow for that type of kind of complex Booleaning. So what I would do is just basically go through here, and we have an object, and we'll do this. We'll say W control drag, let go of control, and just pop some copies off here, and then we're going to go in here and let's do this. W control, boop, and then we're going to split to parts. So now we got a bunch of different objects in here. So we're going to take these objects here. So we're going to hit W, move multiple, unhash these ones, hit Control F, and we have a folder for that one. Or we should, there we go. And I'll go ahead and turn that off. And then for these ones here, again, and then for the rest of these here, let's see if this will work. Sometimes, yeah, look at that. Okay, so now we have 3 folders through here, and we're going to go here and we're going to append let's pin another cylinder here. We're going to shoot this to the top, and we're going to say, I want to make this subtractive. Oops. And we'll go ahead and scale it up. Turn off move multiple. Scale this one up. And we'll turn on live Boolean. And obviously this one's not going to work because its subtractive has to be below. And it doesn't seem to be doing much. However, if we open up this folder and we say, okay, you affect these folder guys, then yeah, it's going to affect what's in the folder. So the folder is going to override start groups, I think. And that kind of makes sense, you know. I guess what you would have to do is, yeah, is there a way to have a bunch of folders and then have one object? I mean, I guess the short answer is no. So here's a bunch of folders with a bunch of stuff here, and it's going to completely ignore those other folders. It's going to completely ignore the folders, it looks like. because those act as start groups, I guess. But if we were to duplicate this off and make this a start group, and now this one's subtractive here, then yeah, that works as expected, but doesn't do anything there. Yeah, so in order to do that, I guess properly would be put everything in a folder that you want a Boolean, and then within these folders you could probably have start groups that stop and start within that folder, but you can't have a folder that respects a start and stop group outside of that folder, which I don't know, I guess that probably makes sense. Yes, I'm back. Cool. Stuff icon series whenever I have a spotlight activated, ZBrush crashes. Okay, I think they addressed that here. Size sliders crashing, quick save crash, slice curve crash, interactive light crash. Oh, maybe not. Maybe they fixed it in 2020.1 but didn't say anything about it. I'm not sure why that could be happening, but whenever anything weird like that happens, usually they'll try and update it in the latest version, so make sure you get latest. Justin, oh, okay, this headset. Sennheiser something or other. Now, it does have this cord here, and you're going to notice in a lot of my latest videos, whenever I move my head, it goes clunk, 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 and it makes a lot of noise on my mic, which I hate. I haven't tried this yet, but I do have, well, this is my wife's, but here's my wife's Cloud 2 headset. The reason why I didn't try those this morning is because I was afraid the audio was going to do something weird. Oh, wait, let me get this thing here. There we go. These things right here. The downside is a lot of I like an open mic configuration so that when I have both these on my ears, and it's more comfortable to wear that way, and I can actually hear myself talk. And then I have another one too, the Barrel MMX 300s. Very nice mic, but it's a closed design, so I have to put one of my ears out so I can modulate the sound of my voice because they're closed design and I can't hear myself. I also have, and these are kind of a disappointment, these things get great reviews. It's the Antlion. It's kind of just one you can kind of put, so you're going to see I have a little nubbin right here, and I can just do it's a magnet here, so I can go through and I can just magnet these on. And the reason I got these is because I can put these on anything, so I can get an open design. Don't need a mic, and I can just use this as a mic. However, when I plugged this into my computer, it had some horrifying feedback, and I went to I went through and be like, okay, how do you stop this? And it's basically like unplug everything from your computer, plug your mic in, don't have it plugged into a uninterrupted power supply, and I'm like, I'm not going to plug in my multi-$1,000 computer into the wall. Sorry about that. And they were like, it's probably that. And I'm like, well, then I'm probably not going to use that mic because there's no way I'm not using a UPS, obviously. So anyway, there's 3 options. These ones are okay, but again, this thing is irritating as hell. I have a shoulder, I'm a human being, and this cord, it just drags and then it picks up on the mic, and it sounds like I'm, I don't know, fighting ropes on a pirate ship or something. Substance going to become part of Adobe CC? I have no idea. Maybe. I don't know if it has anything to do with that, Sharks, but the best way to do a feathered wing. I'm trying to remember. It seems like I would use, for the most control, I would use nano mesh. For a little less control, I would do fiber mesh. I want to say we've done that before. Maybe we can do a feathered shark. Will ZBrush shaders and materials show in KeyShot? Yep. Yeah, as soon as we went in there, I had to go and actually modify those materials. Quick block out of a complex shape. Interesting to see how you determine shapes. Cannot share a link in here. Please type in Google telepod the fly. Oh yeah, okay. Oh, the actual movie Telepod. That's awesome. That would be Cronenberg. Ugh. Yeah, that was an interesting movie. This would be a Boolean dream. Essentially, how I would do this is all these basic shapes. Just go ahead and Z modeler that, and then I wouldn't even, since it's a curve shape, it's a lot easier just to go through here and punch the shape in. These things you can just control with a. So for instance, let's go ahead and say delete other, and then turn off my Boolean here. So basically, let me think. Let me think. Okay, yeah, we can do this. Yeah. Trying to make sure that I'm thinking, yeah, that should work. Basically, we're going to do, and you could even duplicate that down. I mean, you can even do something as crazy as. So I'm going to shrink this down, but I do want to simplify this a bit. So I'm going to go into geometry, edge loop, delete loops, and then we'll go ahead and shrink this down a little bit. And then we can even put a dynamic on here, so we can go. Oh, this might not help us that much, but we can always fix that later. So we're going to hold down Control, drag out a copy, and then just let go. And we're going to do kind of a complex shape like this. And then you could conceivably go in here and you could do a taper. If you did want to just make that overall shape, you could try like maybe using your deformers, or taper's probably not going to work in this case, but a deformer here. And then we'll say, you know what, we could do this. We can hold down Control Alt, and then we could scale this part out, and then Control Alt, scale this part in. Let's do this. Make sure I uniformly scale in the middle here. Sorry. Scale this out, and then this one, you can scale it in. Come on, scale. And that could get your shape. Or you could just model this shape just as a polygon mass, which I probably would, because you're going to need an interior and an exterior, and then these things are just going to be driven by that. So instead of doing this, I would just have a mass in here that I would form into the right shape. So this one, I would go in here and say, okay, deformer, unmask everything. We'll say we'll bloat this middle part out, and then we'll shrink this top part out. Man, I'm having a hard time getting that scale. And then we can go ahead and set this right there in the middle, and then we can scale it up. So that's our basic shape, and you know, refine this as much as you need to match. And then we could even go through here and we could say we have a control loop here, so insert single edge loop here, and then get rid of this one, and then maybe insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, and we'll kind of pull that, kind of round that top out. So now, having those little cut pieces be driven by this. And you could try cutting in here and just putting that door in, but you could just also do that with a Boolean. Let's turn off that start group. We'll go ahead and duplicate this off. And on this one, I'm going to run a crease tolerance. So we're going to say crease, turn on dynamic, apply. Go into solo mode here. We're going to delete lower, and that's going to give me, actually, delete lower, delete higher. That's probably enough. Just getting me some geometry that I can borrow. That's basically going to drive my little things here, which is going to be polygroup polyloops here. So here, and then here, and here, and here. Now, if these have to come straight off, that's going to be a little bit trickier, because as I pull these off, it's going to kind of go in that direction. So, and even this, since they're all fairly even, I could go through here and be like, oh, you know what? These bottom ones, or these middle ones here, are going to be different. So you could just go through here and be like, okay, we already have our duplicate off, so I'm going to take this one, delete hidden. I just like having a little bit more control. You don't have to do that part, but we'll say polygroup all, and we'll pull these out a little bit, and we'll pull these out a lot. And then over here, we'll do like a crease polygroup, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of maybe 3, and that'll get you that look. And then you just got to go through and cut a door in here. Let's go ahead and turn on dynamic for this one, maybe 3 crease. There we go. And then, I mean, you don't even have to do that. If like cutting in the door part, if you already had a door cut in, you could go through here and you could just say Alt and just be like, I don't want these polygons, and I don't want these polygons. Whatever is going to kind of go around that frame. Or at the end of the day, if you don't mind a little bit of extra work, You can go through here and we could do a, let's see, append. Let's do a blend to plane. Let's do a complex shape here. So we're gonna go ahead and scale this out. Plane, scale it out, rotate it. So we can, yeah, I guess I'll do it from the side. That's fine. Here, and then on this polyplane here, we're going to turn off line, hold down Control Shift, and we're going to slice the shape of this thing. So we can go right down the middle. We'll call that the middle for now. And we're going to go ahead and say this is going to be my door shape. And we could even put a little bend on the bottom there. It seems to have that kind of shape here. Delete hidden, and then turn that floor on. We're kind of working out in the middle of nowhere because we started from a cylinder. You know what, we could do this. Let's say here I'm going to merge these temporarily and say deformation unify. There we go. World axis here. And boy, we're even upside down and backwards. We're going to say move multiple, go to here, unmash mesh center. There we go. Now we're right side up. So now we've got this shape here. We're Z forward. We're going to take this polyplane here and move it out. And this one here, we can go ahead and split this back up. So Control Shift, oops, Control Shift A, split hidden. The dynamic properties on this one I want to change back to crease level 1, smooth of 3, and that one can stay the way it is. So now this one is our door shape, and we want to do a quick deformation mirror, and then mirror and weld, and then we'll go ahead and, I mean, I would pull in my reference in the spotlight and all that, but I mean, come on. Who needs to do all that work? So we're going to go ahead and put this door where this needs to go, and then I like to have something a little bit cleaner. So we'll do a X symmetry, half depth size down to 0, and we'll call this our Z mesh. And if it needs a little bit of help, we can do that. Sometimes it'll get in a weird state. We can say, you know what, let's bridge here to here, and here to here. And then we can just say slide. Or in this case, we can do a collapse edge, and then we'll just do another. Let's do mirror, mirror and weld. And then this one, we can just say delete edge, like so. And now QMesh polygroup all, door shape here. And then we'll say Boolean live, turn that off, scale it out, and then this you can use to cut through. And again, some of those pieces you may have to, like, it is rounded on the side, so you may have to go through and Z-remesh these newly Boolean shapes here to kind of get the look you want, but just in a pinch. And obviously this thing would have to be empty, so basically it would be something like this, where we'd go like group by normals, isolate this one, delete hidden, and then we'd say QMesh polygroup all, pull that in, and then oops, display properties flip. There it is. And then now you'll have an interior room to your little area here. Something like that. And then the interior stuff looks pretty plain. And then there's some extra doodads along the bottom and stuff, but I don't know, something like that, maybe. What do you think about the macro printer? Looks cool. I haven't gotten a chance to use it yet. They all look the same to me. I wish I had a better answer for that. It's like, here's a renderer, you put it in, and then it renders. Yes! You know, I don't know. If I probably used it, I'd be like, oh, this is so much better than Redshift, V-Ray, Octane, the myriad of other renderers that do the exact same thing, but I'm sure there's something cool about it that I haven't used yet. Say a few words about V-Ray and Quixel Megascans. People use it in real game dev or just marketing. You're certainly not going to use V-Ray in any kind of real-time solutions. Megascans you can, sure. In fact, Unreal just bought Megascans, I think, and you can just use Megascans in Unreal. Now, read the end user license agreement on that, depending on what you're making. But Yes. And we've done V-Ray stuff before on my channel if you are interested in that. Let me think. Let me see. Yeah, here's a live stream. We did a little bit of V-Ray here. You can check that out if you'd like. Oops. Yes. I mean, his teeth are rounded just because he's a water balloon animal, but I suppose you could put I mean, even watery animals, you could add a little edge to it. Fog volume and scattering for the light and light beams and KeyShot, that would probably work, actually. Cool. Thanks for the kind words, everybody. Workflow for retopo UV unwrap pose. Do you retopo the character before posing? Absolutely. Mess up the UVs if you retopo then unwrap? No, I mean basically, you know, you have a character and they're posed, or this thing, and then you go through and you make the polygons and you unwrap it and you have UVs, and then I mean, basic workflows is going to be you have polygons that have UVs, and then you put bones in it, and then you animate those bones and you paint weights so that the skin kind of works on those bones nicely. And if you're really fancy, you do some sort of muscle simulation and skin sliding stuff that'll make it really, really work nicely. But at the end of the day, it's just a model with UVs. Getting into 3D modeling, should I go fully in and get a 3970X or stick with the cheaper 3950X for now? 3970X is probably overkill if you're just modeling. The reason I have all this, honestly, is mostly video editing. If you're just using ZBrush, I mean, this is nice if you go in here and you hit, I mean, it does take advantage of it. Let's go in back into Skin Shader 4, and let's play a little bit of fun with this. So we go in here to Material, Modifiers, Wax Modifiers, Strength, okay, and then Render, Properties, Wax Preview. So we turn on a little Wax Preview here, and then under our Render Properties here, we'll go in here and we'll do, yeah, we got Shadows. Strength is maybe a little bit. We'll go ahead and just cast a shadow on the floor here. And then we're going to do resolution. Let's bump up those arrays and we'll take that angle so it kind of blurs out the further away it gets. And we'll make this light go this way. And then we'll go ahead and turn on AO. I'm trying to just kind of tax my CPU a little bit here. Now I will say ZBrush is a pretty CPU intensive program specifically. Some programs are a little more GPU intensive, like Substance Painter, Substance Designer, very GPU centric. So it kind of depends on what you use. You can use CPU renders, you can use GPU renders, you can use hybrid renderers. Some things are going to really use your CPU, some things are going to really use your GPU. But in this case, so when we're doing, and the other thing too is if I'm not using that many cores, I can have there's a boost clock, so it's going to be like 4.25 gigahertz or something like that. So if it's only ticking one of these things, it's still going to be a plenty fast processor. It's not like it's going to drop down to 2.5 or something like that. But when we go through here and we run a BPR render, you're going to see it starts, went too fast. So let's go in here to AO. Let's just crank up these settings just so I can turn that blur down. There we go. There, work on it. So as this is working, and I could also turn off simultaneous multi-threading SMT on here and probably get even more, slightly maybe more performance, because if it's not taking advantage of multiple threads as well as it could, you know, it's using 100% here, but then it's kind of distributing that workload in probably in a weird way that's maybe not helping it that much. But and there it goes. And that's with all these settings cranked up to like 10,000. So you know, I would say, you know, honestly, I wouldn't even go the Threadripper route. I would say probably, trying to think, I mean, you want to do, just because you probably are going to use them in CG at some point, if you're going to be doing lighting builds or anything that has a intensive CPU workload, more cores is fine, and then the higher clock speed on the fewer cores. If you can get like a 16 core with a really high clock speed, I think that's probably your sweet spot. 24 core, 32 core, 64 core. It's probably going to be overkill, especially if you're just new. The cool thing about Threadripper is um, the PCIe 4 ecosystem more than anything, I think, right now, as far as like, especially when I talk about video editing. Um, for the upgraded components, you can go here, update, copy link address here. Because everything takes advantage of that in the system. So like not the GPU, that's PCIe 3, but as far as like the CPU and the M.2 drives and the RAM, it's 3600 RAM, and you could see stuff that says like, oh, it only supports 3200. That's just the people writing the what do they call it? The there's a group that goes through and like says this is rated for this type of RAM. They don't rate it past 3200, so they're not gonna. But of course you can overclock, quote unquote. It's not really overclocking. All I need to go is into some settings and go run this at 3600, and it runs fine. So it's not like technically it's not supported by some group, but it runs just fine day to day, and it's not taxing it. So yeah, all that kind of PCI 4, Gen 4, I should say, it makes everything faster. And in the future, that's probably going to be good as things get a little bit more processor resource intensive, I should say. You cannot make the folder as a start only subtools inside the folder. Yeah, so basically that's exactly right, I think. Basically you're going to have a bunch of folders, and within those folders you can break that up into different start groups, but it's going to be contained within that folder. How to preserve scaling when working with other apps. Sometimes ZBrush messes up scale when I re-import stuff. I would say ZBrush is actually pretty rock solid in my experience when it comes to scaling, but you definitely want to go into Z plugin, go in here to, because ZBrush is only going to read the unit scale and apply it, and then when you go to export it, and also make sure you're not running like ZBrush 3.1 or something. Like these things have all been worked out, and they're pretty good. There's a quick scaler in here, but also there's a scale master. And if you click the scale master here and click on this video, Joseph Drust himself, the living legend, will walk you through everything you need to know about ZBrush and scale. I'll go ahead and link you that. And Scale Master comes with ZBrush by default, so you don't need to install that. Data can preserve scaling, and this model be bent with bend curve. Yes. Are you a designer, character artist, or environment artist? I'm none of the above now. I am director of character art, which means mostly I do spreadsheets, go to meetings. What else do I do? There was management tools type stuff. My team does a lot of really cool stuff though. They're great. They're awesome. VR sculpting, good results. No, I have a VR headset around here. I should probably plug in, but yeah, I see cool stuff. But yeah, I like keeping my arms down. That's why I don't have a Cintiq. I don't like having my arms up while I work for 10 hours a day, especially art stuff. And now, not that I do that at 10 hours a day, but I'm certainly not going to go in VR and do my manager spreadsheets. Yeah, exactly. Teach me how to do a square at ZBrush. I'll never forget you. Hey, no problem. Yes, The Fly is, any Cronenberg film is going to be a real experience. A way to deform the mesh by collision, like pushing a mesh into another and deforming one or both. In Houdini there is. ZBrush, not so much. CPU thermals when you're running KeyShot at say 50% cores and 80% cores. Let's see. So when we are in KeyShot, we can say here's some ice liquid here. And that's the other thing too, is I'm using a Kraken cooler that doesn't it doesn't cover the entire CPU, which if you look at like where the chiplets are, it covers that, so maybe that's good enough. I don't know. I would prefer to have a full coverage there. Let's go into lighting. So this is all set up right, and then we're using 97% CPU usage. Now it says that I can still do ZBrush work no problem. Like I can have this, in fact, I've done it before where I'll just go through here and I'll throw in a render at 100% and I can stream, I can do ZBrush, I can do anything I want, and it's perfectly fine. So I'd have to go into like, to get a real accurate read, right now it's at 69C. But again, a lot of that might have to do with the cooler, so that's something I wanna continue to investigate. Because yeah, I'm not certain that I'm getting 100% out of that. Cool. Yep. Yeah, so I'm waiting on the new controllers for the M.2 drives. There's an interesting article about that. We'll see how that goes. But much faster hard drives. Live stream schedule is Tuesdays on Pixelogic's channel, and then the first Tuesday of the month Pixelogic, first Thursday of the month my channel. I always say, "Oh, I'm going to stream more," but man, I never do. So don't believe me when I say that. Are all digital artists PC guys? Or you work with artists that don't really care about the tech stuff? I don't. I probably wouldn't care about the tech stuff, except for my wife works at AMD, and that does up my interest because what she does. She's on the she teaches me a lot of stuff. She's on the PR marketing side. And then she knows way more about hardware and stuff. In fact, she's the one who seeded my CPU and put most of it together when we had to upgrade my computer. So she's the hardware person, and then she teaches me all that stuff. So the more I use it, the more I kind of mess around with stuff, the more interesting it gets to me. But generally speaking, for a long time, I was just, give me something that works. I'll pay top dollar for it to be put together correctly, and I just need it to work. And I still have that very much have that mindset. But yeah, I don't think you have to be PC guy to be a artist at all. Give me something that works and I'm perfectly happy. But sometimes it's interesting to kind of dig in there and kind of mess around with some stuff. Thank you, everybody. Wax Preview actually looks pretty good for subsurface scanning. Can it be modified for a best result? You could probably use that when we did this here, ZBrush 2020. What's new? We did a little bit of like. You can render out a subsurface scattering pass in ZBrush if you notice over here under the render settings. Yeah, yep. So come on. Okay, you know what? You can just double tap this, I think, or just tap and does it not work anymore? Okay. Render, Wax Preview. You also have access to under your render properties, turn on SSS, and then you can do an SSS pass, which is essentially just going to be a mask. Actually, I think the last time I really used this was, go home. We use subsurface scattering passes on, damn, it's already gone. Go to my playlist. And then under live stream full episodes here, there is a creature live stream we did. And then in here we went through, and actually, you know what, I'm probably due to do a better explanation of this, because as I was doing it, I was kind of more doing stream of consciousness talking than anything useful. So let's do this. Let's say, I'm going to save this Z tool as polypaint variant posed. We're going to kill ZBrush, load it back up. And we're going to open up Photoshop. And in here, we're going to say load up our streaming stuff shark posed comma key. Open this up. Go in here. We'll switch over to Skin Shader 4, render, settings, AO, shadow, properties, wax preview, AO, shadow, turn that strength down a bit, raise up a bit, angle up a bit, AO, raise and resolution up quite a bit, blurred down, SSS we need to turn on, and I don't mess with SSS that much. So I'm just going to leave that default, and then we'll go ahead and give us a little pose here. We'll turn on perspective, draw menu. Yeah, I guess 50 is okay. And then we'll go ahead and make our light where we want to. And you know what? On the Skin Shader 4, let's go ahead and select that. And I'm going to go into my materials here. And we're going to say diffuse up to 100. And we're going to crank that specular up. We'll make this shiny. There we go. Oh, another thing you can do, when you're moving this around and you hold down, you go in here and pan, and then you let go, wait, here, and then let go. No, start rotating. What is it? There was something, there's a way to rotate along the view axis here that I don't remember how to do anymore. Imagine that. Imagine I forgot how to do something in ZBrush. It's insane. I've forgotten so much. So here we have this, and we have shadows, and we got our passes here. So we can go through and we can do, what am I looking for here? Passes, give me passes. Boy, my brain's already going, and it's still early. Here's my composite, here's my depth, here's my shadow, SSS, mask, and AO. I think this all is fine. So let's do this. Let's go in here. We'll just do our composite. You can also do BPR filters if you want to do like a toon render type thing. We'll go ahead and say composite, depth, shadow, AO, mask, SSS, and while we're in here, let's go into subtool. Let's hold down shift and turn this off. Let's go into like basic material 2. Let's go into our material settings here, and again we're going to crank that diffuse up. Specular we'll keep pretty up here. We're going to go into lighting, and we're going to tap to send that around to the back, and we'll do a we can do a rim light along, I don't know, maybe this back side here, maybe this front side. And then we'll choose our black color here, and then we'll do another BPR render. And this composite, render pass, call this lighting. So now, streaming stuffed here. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep. We'll start with that composite here, and then alpha. This thing here is our AO map, so we'll go ahead and, I mean, the composite head does have AO in it. Oh, shoot. There we go. Channels. So our AO map we're just going to paste into a layer. Our depth map, this one, we're going to copy, oops, Control-C, copy this into a new alpha. So you just click this plus button and then paste it. And then our mask, same thing. So Control-A, Control-C, and this one we'll just put into a channel. Shadow, we don't really need to mess with. We already have that in our composite. So it's our scattering, Control-A, Control-C, and we'll throw this right into another channel here. And then our lighting pass, Control-A, Control-C. That's select all, copy, and then we'll go back in here to layers. And at the very top here, we'll just paste this, and then we'll set this to like screen, and we'll set this one to, I suppose, multiply, although there's an argument to be made that AO should be set to something else. We're going to do a hue saturation, Alt, tap to link these to just the AO, and then we can go through here and we can make that AO read a bit blue, and then a hue saturation, Alt tap this lighting so that it just affects this, and we can turn on colorize, and we could make that warm. And now, since this does have, the lighting is affecting the background because this lighting does have color information or channel information there, I'm going to control click this alpha here, and then we're going to take this one and we're going to do a, what is that, add layer mask, there we go. So now the lighting is just going to be here, and then this will control if we wanted like a warmer little light here. So now we have this, we have it all composited, and now for, oh, and you can also You could add contrast. You can do levels on that if you wanted to. Oops. Make your AO a little bit more contrasty, I suppose. Go through here and kind of get rid of some of the grays. And then, okay, so you have all this. And then what we're going to do is, oh yeah, subsurface scattering. So channels, and then we have, here's our depth, here's our mask, and then here's our subsurface scattering mask. Now this subsurface scattering mask, what I'm looking for is the white values inside of the shark. However, I also have all this white around here. So what I can do is I can control tap the subsurface scattering. It's going to select all of the white areas based on the white value. And then what I can do through here is to hold down Control Alt and get rid of. No, that's not what I want to do. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can make this alpha and you can invert it, and you can use Control Alt to get rid of this, the white areas here. But you can just Control tap this. You can go into layers, and then if you wanted to do subsurface scattering, just make a new layer here. And let's say you wanted to do like a red. Let's go here and let's put this up at the top and fill that with a color, and you're going to be like, oh great, everything's red, even this part. Well, this is where you can go back in here to your channel. You can hold down Control and tap, and then just set another mask here, so only the subsurface scattering white areas on the map affect your object. So that's probably the easier way. The way I was doing it was going in here and inverting channels and using Control Alt to make my selection, which I think was confusing. So now here we can go through and we can do a hue saturation. And you can also do, if you wanted to, again, increase that contrast, you can put levels on here. Although this is pretty much on or off, so maybe not so much. I guess you could dumb it down a little bit here. And then, of course, if you want to change what hue is coming in here, and then how much saturation it has, you can kind of dial that in. And then overall, I'm just going to take this here. We'll do a curves and kind of play around with it. It's not very punchy. And again, if we want to leave that background alone, I can go through here. Even on this background, I can double click it, say OK. And then underneath here, I can drag a layer below here, and I can make this whatever color I want. So we'll go here to like a gray. And then here we can, again, I can just steal this mask here. I can Control tap this one and then set that. So now our object is cut out from the background. There's our AO pass. And then I can control this separately from the background here. So if I want to really go through and kind of punch it up just a tad. And once you're happy with that, you can go here. I like to do a Control A, Control Shift C, Control V, and this is going to just copy, paste everything you see all into one layer. And then this is where you can go in here and do your filter. You know what? Probably gray isn't. Hold on. Let's fix that. That wasn't the most compelling choice here. Let's go into hue saturation on this layer. We'll turn on colorize, and we'll say, you know what? Let's look at our reference. When in doubt, look at your reference. Let's do maybe a radial gradient. Let's go in here to gradient tool, and you can, we do already have it set up because I was doing lettering the other day. You can go through here and you can do like this. You can do like a linear gradient, and this is too saturated. You can go through here, just click on this. And you can say you need to be less saturated and darker, and then you need to be the same. And then now you go through here and just drag like so. You can also switch this type out to, boy, it's been a while since I've been in here. You should be able to do a little bit more of a radial gradient. Where's that at, everybody? Gradient tool. Oh, there it is. Radial gradient. So you can kind of pull in from here, and you can do, well, it looks like we're going to have to switch these out. No big deal. Drag this one here, drag this one here. And then now, I kind of give you a little vignette. So you can be like, okay, here's the sun coming in from this side, and then it kind of sweeps along this way, so it's not so linear. So you can maybe do something cool like that. And then now we can add our hue saturation control if we want to go through here and adjust like make minor adjustments. And that's easier for me than like going through here and making those different colors. Just go through here and modify this like so. So we have all this. Oh yeah, and now we're going to do Control A, Control Shift C to copy visible or merged, and then Control V, and that'll paste that. And then we'll go in here to Filter, Blur, Lens Blur, and in here we're going to grab our Alpha 2, which is our depth mask, I think. Let's verify that. Channels, Alpha 2 is our depth mask. So we're going to use that information to do a filter, blur, lens blur, to do a depth of field kind of trick. So if I turn off preview, you're going to see, oh, everything's nice and sharp, and then I turn it back on, you're going to see, oh, the tail starts to get faded. So we can set our blur focal distance. So set focal point is on, which means I can just tap anywhere. So if I want the tail to be sharp and this to be fuzzy, I can do that. I want to focus the camera here, or focus the camera on his teeth, or focus the camera on his eyeball. And then the radius here is when I just click through here, that'll increase or decrease that effect. So it's more of a tilt shift. So we can click on here, we can click on the eyeball, and then crank that radius down. And there's more settings you can play with, but I think this will be fine. Hit OK. So now we have a little depth of field on here. And then on top of here, you could go through and paint all sorts of stuff, bloom and colorize and overlays and all that good stuff. And you could do a dodge and burn tool if you want to make sure you have protect tones turned on so you can doesn't desaturate it. Again, you just kind of go through here and you can punch up some areas like so. Does certain affinity accept international interns? I wish they. I'm not positive, yes or no, but I wish we had a better or a better intern program. I would love to onboard just people. It's kind of that'd be really fun, I think. I mean, I'm sure there's downsides, especially when we talk about production stuff, but if we could do it, I would love to be able to onboard more junior people. Cool. I'm looking forward your complete course, $99, but it looks like I miss in intro video, multiple recourse sites, or is it in one place on Gumroad? It's all in one place. It's literally 7 zip files. Is a quick scale, is that Pixelogix plugin? If not, where do I get it? I think it just came, you know what? I think if you want to install that, go to here and say Z plugin. So here's how you install plugins here. And then anything that doesn't come pre-installed, Pixelogix Download Center, and then go over here to ZBrush plugins, and then that'll be where you can download stuff and install it. So install, watch the video. No way to set hotkeys to 3D modeler modifiers. You talking about your let's go ahead and just kill this. Oh, and you'll probably want to save your camera view if you ever want to get back to that, by the way. Like your Z modeler, you can actually save out a brush. So here, edit, make polymesh 3D. If you wanted to have a Z modeler brush set up for like, I always want a QMesh polygroup all, or I want to do an inset polygroup all region. So if I go through here and do a polygroup like this, and I always want to have a brush for inset polygroup region, you can actually set a hotkey that'll have, if you, because you, basically what you would have to do is you would have a Z modeler brush, you would say clone it off, and then you would say set the face to inset polygroup all, and then when you're doing that a lot, if you want to set the edge action to polygroup polyloop, and if you want to set the point action to, I don't know, stitch 2 points, you can set the entire brush up to have those actions for the face, edge, and point, and then you would save this brush out, and then you go in here to brush save as, and you would go put it into 2020 Z startup brush presets, and you can just fill this thing up with all the different things you want to set the hotkeys, and then when you start up ZBrush, it'll be a bunch of Z modeler brushes in here you can assign hotkeys to. And the thing about that is you're not only assigning a hotkey for face actions, but also a hotkey for edge actions. So you're kind of getting a 3 and point actions or vert actions. So you're kind of getting a 3 for. But I prefer just to go through here and just inset polygroup all. It's just a muscle memory thing, so I can go through here and say Q mesh polygroup all, and then hold down Shift. So anything I need to do, I can do pretty easily. So like insert single edge loop, I just know where the things are. Bevel edge loop complete, hold down Alt, and then oops, not bevel. I want to go to insert single edge loop, and then insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. So I can just, once you know where these things are, it's not a hotkeys might be a little overkill for me, because I know over here Q mesh polygroup all is right here, or inset is right here, and I don't end up using that much. So, and then we'll say polygroup island. So out of all these options in here, I know it looks like a lot. I only use like 6, so I know where they all are pretty quickly. Yeah, I think I want to say, I wish I could respond to all these things, but occasionally I'll be able to reply on my YouTube comments, but it's rare. But on my workstation here, I think there has been some comments down here about like, hey, check out this cooler for this type of computer. So if you look in those comments there, that might point you in the right direction. Oh yeah, ZBrush to Photoshop plugin, ZBrush to Photoshop. It puts in too much stuff that I don't really care about for me to use this very often. I mean, I know you can turn it on and off and kind of go through here. It's just, I don't use it enough to really warrant it dumping out a ton of stuff I don't know how to use, but you can definitely use that to go through and generate your Photoshop file. Let's see. I have to look into that stream service. Is it free? I'm not sure what streaming service. Shout it out. I'm not sure. Can you do Photoshop from ZBrush, and how to apply textures on top of the final from ZBrush? Leather texture really struggle with Photoshop. Yeah, I don't. I struggle with Photoshop too. That's why I never use it as a texture. ZBrush, Substance Painter, Substance Designer. I use Photoshop for making my thumbnails. I don't use it as a texture. Isn't a normal map really important in Substance Painter also? Actually, that's a good point. You can just render out in ZBrush. You can render out normal maps in ZBrush here. You can actually do it like a 2.5D. Let's see, crease, dynamic, and then here, normal RGB, and then you want to make sure you go into render best. So you can render out in ZBrush a normal map that you can use to take into Substance Painter, and you could do material IDs, and you can, I think there's plugins for that now. That'll take, it's like Z Compositor or something like that, and you can go through and you can actually make a 2.5, and Christoph Dessy does this a lot, so, or he used to. YouTube. So in his videos, if you go back a bit, you'll see, yes, look dev in ZBrush with just a Z depth pass, and then I think Pablo, he has a plugin for that. Z Compositor. I want to say it was Z Compositor, but I could be wrong. Something like that. You can look that up, and it'll be a 2.5D image. You won't be able to rotate, but you will be able to do look dev and drag and drop stuff. Just using a normal map that just has depth information, kind of. As far as normal maps, really important in Substance Painter, not really. You can, in fact, if you go to the Substance Painter, like if you watch Wes McDermott's kind of get started in Substance Painter, he uses a lamp that doesn't have any normal map information. It has to be a nice model. If you want to have a ton of detail on there, you either have to build it in or you have to bake it into a normal map, or I suppose a displacement map. You can do that too, but generally you can do a normal map and then mix that in with height in Substance Painter. Do you think Houdini will introduce more tools for character workflow in the future? Yes. So we can use it instead of other software like Maya? Sure. I think so. How you exported from KeyShot? I didn't. I just have a bridge. So I have the ZBrush. I can go up here to render, external render KeyShot, and I can just send it over. And that's the this version of KeyShot is literally only the ZBrush version. So I have to go through ZBrush to get in there. Since it's been a while since side effects came out with game-oriented tools like from your sci-fi ship series, do you think Houdini is a contender in that space for mesh optimization? Oh, they've come out with a lot more stuff since then. That's old. That's old hat. In fact, you wanna let's spin around in Houdini for a bit. We can do that. I might have a working file that we can kind of check out. Let's go ahead and turn off KeyShot here. Yeah, they've come out with a lot more game dev stuff since that tutorial. In fact, that tutorial, the whole setup is not right anymore. I'm gonna do another Houdini tutorial as soon as I get time, and as soon as I finish up. Where am I at with that one? So I've got going on 100 video series here for the Apinator. Editing. Oh, why does Windows always do that? Just stop with this stupid stuff I don't care about. Contributing artists, an album. I want date modified. Thank you. Yeah, I'm up to 81, and I still got a bunch more to go. So here's my HUD Polygon UV statistics, and also my source here. Oh my god. Date modified. What else I got left to do? Marmoset we've already done. UV painter, triangulation, UDIMs, full head bake. Almost done. Full head bake 74 is my last one, so I've only got a handful left to do. We're getting there. After I'm done with that, I might do a Houdini one. But let's see if I can go into Houdini Apinator. Trying to think. There we go. So basically, this is me going through Houdini and breaking down. And voxelize is excellent on the CPU, by the way. Oh, it's so good. Whenever you see something that actually taxes your hardware, your GPU or your CPU, boy, it's nice. So here we go into. So basically, I can bring in a multi-file, and then I kind of split this out into different component parts because I was kind of playing around with what gives us a better result. So I have Quad Remesher plugin built in to Houdini. So essentially, instead of going into, you could do this. You can, and on my YouTube channel, I have this all over the place where you can go into ZBrush, you can decimate it down, you can UV it in there, you can export it with soft normals, and then you can just bake in Painter. However, you can also set up a node graph, and if you haven't seen any of this, you'd have no clue what I'm talking about. Kind of an okay get started guide in Houdini, although the paint stop's been updated, so that's not going to work anymore either. That's another thing they did. So here's the game dev tool set. Again, it's not that old, but they move fast. So some of that stuff might be a little out of date. You might have to do a little bit of research on how to fix that. But here's basically, I split out all the sub-D parts on my mesh here, so I can go through, and then I can run Quad Remesher. So that's a plugin that'll go through and quad remesh. It's just like Z-Remesh and ZBrush. You have a lot of the same controls here, so you can like use vertex colors. You can paint red or green or something. So that'll go ahead and take that geometry down, and then I did a comparison with that along with just doing Skull Sub D1, which is basically just doing a poly reduce on those objects. So this is my original geometry. Now, if I wanted to turn these into quads, again, I can do Quad Remesher to get that result, or I can go in here and I can say just poly reduce. And in here, instead of just going down here and saying, you know what, we can do a percentage. So as I drag this down, it has to do a quick, let's go ahead and see so we can view it here. So as I do this, it'll just continue to reduce on the fly. However, now let's also put in a normal. go ahead and set this so we can make it a little bit prettier to look at. So we can go through here and we can just continue to divide this down. And you can also say continue reducing within quality tolerance. So if you want to do like game res, you can just type in 4, and that'll kind of look at your geometry and go, this is to maintain the volumes and the shapes. This is pretty good. You don't have to type in because you want to put a bunch of stuff through here, so you don't have to tell it every single object, I want exactly this. You want something more general. So this will give you your game res, and then 6 will give you like a cinematic res. There's LOD systems you can use in here, but let's go ahead and keep this at 5. Turn that off. So instead of percentage, you can also go through here, you can say preserve quads. So as you're reducing this, it'll go ahead and keep your quads. So that's another option. So instead of doing a whole quad remesh and having it evaluate your objects, you can also just say keep quads. And then through here, let's see, sub D, yeah, that's where I kind of split that out. And then I was kind of playing around with like auto UV scenes versus auto UVs, and then I got the rhizome UV plugin. So here's the skull and the jaw here. And we have it poly reduced, so we can work with that a little bit better. So I can go through here and I can just run a quad remesher on this, and that's the result I'll get. I'm thinking about if there's a way for me to find problem areas, and I could, ideally you wouldn't have to go through and do a paint thing, but you could say, I want to paint this area and I want to run a poly reduce on here with a quadrangulate, and then kind of dirt skirt those two differences together to get a quad remesh where it works, and then a poly reduce where it didn't work, and then poly reduce kind of does a better job. Sometimes if you don't have enough control to make quad remesher work appropriately, like in ZBrush quad remesher, if you remember, let's go ahead and go back here. So for example, if we go through here and we have this and we have all of these polygroups on here, and I go through and we do we want to append another cylinder, and then this cylinder here we're going to make subtractive with a live Boolean, and we'll go through and we'll cut through this and we'll say crease dynamic, and this is our result, maybe. So, oh, turn it on. There we go. So this is our result, and if we want quad remesher in this case to do a good job on this, quad remesher is built into ZBrush, so what we can do is we can go in here to Boolean, dynamic subdivision, and make Boolean mesh, and because we have enough control, we have enough, let's go ahead and simplify this a little bit, so we can say Control Shift, isolate this, and then this together. So basically, for control, I'm going to say, you're a polygroup here, you're a polygroup here. So now all of these different polygroups are going to be add to the amount of control that ZRemesher or quad remesher and Houdini has. So in ZBrush, you say, go over here and I want to, you can even have it detect edges if you want to, but since you have groups already, and you can turn smooth groups down to 0, since you have nice clean cuts, you can just ZRemesh this. Is it symmetrical? It just makes it go a little bit faster. Same thing in Houdini. There we go. If you do have a symmetrical mesh, which in ZBrush you just have to say have symmetry on, then you go in here, keep groups, depth size is probably fine, just ZRemesh, and set that up, and then now it'll go through and keep those edges hard. Although you do want to, I guess, be careful in this one. You want to do like a group by normals to keep those. So basically you're just looking for ways to control this. And if you want to control, there we go. If you want to control density, and even through here, you would have to go and grab these. And let's run a group by normals on this one. There we go. So the more information you can feed it, the better your results will be. So, oh, dang it, right here too. And if you do a polygroup group by normals, that would just do it automatically if you're working with that kind of stuff. Really? Group by normals. There we go. Yay! So pretty decent result. You can fiddle around with those settings there. But you know, I needed to have that information in order to control where those edges ended up. And as far as poly density, in here, all you got to do is say use poly paint and say color density is I want it to be 2x dense. So you would go through here and you would essentially, we can just mask this bottom part out here, and we can say color fill object. So now this is going to be 2x dense, and then we can also go through here and we can say I want this to be 0.25 color fill object. So now it's going to be less dense, it's going to be more dense, and then when you run ZRemesher on it, it'll have more density here and less density here, and then also maintain your groups here. So you have that control. You have the same control in here. You can go through here and you can say, okay, use vertex colors, and you can go through here and there's painted quality density, cyan and red, just like ZBrush. I can't get it to work in here. I think that it's asked for a paint sop, and they've updated, or instead of the paint sop, they've updated it to an attribute painter, which is a lot more powerful, but I cannot get it to work appropriately. But anyway, you can go through here and then it'll go through and just auto UV using Rhizome UVs. So we'll give that a second to kind of go through there and auto UV it. So this will just be your automated pipeline for getting game reses and UVs, and it doesn't, like, this one's kind of specific because I'm running a specific object through it. So let's go to Control 2 so we can see both, and we can go through here and we can do our, so I split this into the skull and the jaw. The jaw actually did a really, really beautiful job. So this is the auto UVs from Rhizome. And there's auto UV options in here. There's Houdini auto UVs. This is a plugin. So Quadremesher and Rhizome are a plugin. You can use the free trial if you want. So here, that's all auto UV. Then you can merge it out, and then you can do a UV layout and all that good stuff. And then you can actually symmetrize it. You can split it in half, and then you can stack your UVs to make it a little bit more optimized and stuff like that. So yeah, so basically it's not game dev tools anymore. It's Side Effects Labs. So you go in here to update tool set and take it off production builds. Say update. And this, and I would say take it off production builds and update, because if you want to use the Rhizome stuff, again, you'll have to either buy a license or use the trial, but this is just built into Houdini. So you can say tab and say Rhizome Labs. You can there's optimize, process, unwrap, all that stuff built in. So let's see here. ZBrush 2019 has upgrade because I don't want to lose all my hotkeys. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you can transfer that stuff. However, whenever there's a full release, 2019 to 2020, yeah, don't let that be what makes transferring difficult. Because here's the thing, all of this stuff, like my custom menus, my custom interface, and my hotkeys, all of that's going to be stored right here. So ZBrush public users, public document, ZBrush data 2020 in this case, or 2019, whichever version you're using. You go into your Z startup, and then your hotkeys are stored right here. And then your custom user interface is right here. Caveat: if 2020 to 2020.1 is fine, you can just upgrade, copy this stuff, copy these into your new folder if it makes a new folder, if you want to do a clean install, and you should be fine. 2019 to 2020, I would just rebuild it just to make sure there's no discrepancies or anything weird going on. Your hotkeys are probably fine, although there may be stuff that's changed enough to where a certain hotkey doesn't go to the right place, I suppose. But if you're just using like vanilla hotkeys like clay brush, standard brush, that kind of stuff, live Boolean, render, BPR render, all those things should be fine. So if you've changed any of that, just take this startup hotkeys and just copy it into your new folder. But hotkeys is the easy part. In a custom interface, I'll just rebuild it literally from scratch. I'll just go through here, and if you want more information on that, intro to ZBrush for ideation. Down here, there's 7 parts to this. You can buy the rest of them if you want, but the first part on here is free, and that contains custom interface and menus. Super easy to set up. And again, it takes me 5 minutes to rebuild it from scratch every full release. Oh, you can. Okay, that's a good point. So whenever you do anything custom in here, and the video I just sent you guys will go through this, but preferences, config, you're going to want to store config, and then you can also under hotkeys, you can store your hotkeys, you can load, and you can save hotkeys from here. But that folder I showed you, that's where it goes. Problem with stitching, I have low poly mesh. I want to have stitches, but my stitches IMM that I purchased is very high poly. My mesh goes from 1K to 100K after stitching. Yeah, so that would be like if I had a brush in here. So I'll go ahead here to brush. I have a stitches brush that I got from Pablo Munoz ZBrush guides tutorial here. So I got this one here, and I can also go in here to Z plugin, and this is a plugin you have to install. Look earlier in this video to see more information on that. Then you can go in here to IMM extractor, and then you can extract those two subtools. So now you have access to the actual geometry and the names. These weren't named to go through. And if one of these is like this, and it's like, oh, why is this 6,000 polys? Because if you go 6,000 times, put this on a curve, and it has 100,000 stitches, it's going to be a very, very high density poly. A lot of polygons. So in this case, I would go, if it didn't have any subdivisions, you could try reconstructing. If that doesn't work, you can just go through here and you can just say zero mesh half, depth size down to 0, and just keep zero meshing it down until it's something reasonable. There we go. That's better. And then you can go here, you can say brush, create insert multi-mesh, and then you'll have a brand new multi-mesh that you can say brush save as, and then it'll be reduced. Thanks, Jared. Yes, it is early. Oh man, we're coming up on 8 o'clock. I gotta take these girls out soon. We got about 15 minutes left. Most of the stuff I do in Houdini is processing geometry. I don't build a lot of stuff in here yet. I'm not saying it can't be done or should be done. A lot of people are doing some really cool stuff in here. Mine is mostly on the workflow side. So basically going through here. So here's a poly reduce. So I have my geometry in here, and it has all this information on it. It has your vert color and all that good stuff. And then I can go through here. There's a for each loop that'll actually go through and do a voxel mesh. So this is a cool one. Oh, and when you're voxelizing, look at that, bam. So that's the kind of thing where, and it's actually doing a for each loop. So every single piece, now I think this is only 2, but if you were doing like 16, 20 pieces through here, that time adds up. So by voxelizing, basically that's running a Dynamesh on this object, and it's getting all of those pieces were separate, and now it's all one piece because it basically ran a Dynamesh. And the voxel mesh has a lot of different settings you can go through here. Again, I'll do an updated from my my other playlist, but basically it goes through and voxelizes each piece, and then from here it goes through and it poly reduces down. And that poly reduce you can, and this is just to make it a little more manageable. So when we go through and we remesh it and we UV it. Well, basically, this remesh operation can run a little bit faster. Same thing for the teeth and the eye and the iris, and soft, normal, symmetrical, and then just finally, this I need to update these maps. Obviously, it's baking to the wrong thing, but I mean, you could do it all in Houdini if you're up to that kind of thing. You know, this is all just automatic. And the cool thing about this is if I set up the graph correctly, in this case it's not really set up this way, but you can just drag in something from the top. Anything you do in ZBrush, drag it to the top, and it'll go through and auto game res it for you based on the parameters you have set. So save you some time. Game Dev Toolkit, yeah, renamed Houdini Labs. Yep, exactly right. What's better for doing hair, ZBrush or Maya, and how would you do it? Both. It kind of depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm doing very, very specific stuff, probably my hair cards and stuff. But, well, actually, how I would do hair is pay someone else to do it because I hate doing hair. Neutral lighting environment systems painter, like 50% gray. You could probably just make a 50% gray. I could be wrong. Environment map. Or a neutral lighting environment map. Honestly, I've never bothered to go into Substance Painter and change the environment map. Sure. Sample. So you in here and you say whatever environment map you want to use. And is there, yeah, I bet you can. I bet you can. Not material, all. Where do they hide these things? Yeah, absolutely. You could bring in environments here. So these things, you could just drag in an environment into here, and then you can probably refresh it and then select your new environment map. So maybe make something 50% gray and then go and import it as an environment map. Maybe. Seems like that would work. Change ZBrush memory and cache location. I think so. I know quick save, you can change that location. Certainly do that, and also check your quick save max quick save files. If you have that accidentally like set to 1,000 or something, it's gonna put the hurt on your computer. And you can always go in and delete those manually as well. Those are say in the same folder as your settings. So Z data quick save, and then your recovered files and your quick save files are all in here. There might be some garbage you can clean up. As far as memory and stuff, I'm not sure. You'd have to look that up. Off the top of my head, I don't know. So if I use Rhizome UV and Houdini, I don't need to pay a license for Rhizome? No, you do. You can use, you'll get a standalone, and then you'll also have a bridge that'll use Rhizome. UDIMs and Houdini, yes. How do you retopologize a dinosaur with many tiny thorns on its back? Very carefully. Probably manually at that point. I don't know if ZRemesher or an auto solution besides Decimate would do it, but then if you want nice edge loops for the rigging department, that's a lot of manual work. Came out of the same hands who develop ZRemesher on ZBrush, also worked on Decimation Master plugin. Yes. Custom edging just appear randomly in startup, so I had to save it out just to refresh it each time it happens. I haven't had that happen in a while. There's been a few startups in my life where my custom menu is like, oh, my Pav custom menu didn't load, and I'll shut it down. But that hasn't happened in a few releases. And honestly, just restarting ZBrush fixed it. So it's all just looking back at this. So as long as this doesn't get deleted, it should be fine, I think. Enable customize. I couldn't add an icon on top of the other in the bottom tray of the interface, north and south, unless I brought in an older UI as a template easier to yours. Top and another. I couldn't add an icon on the top. Hold on. On the top of another in the bottom tray. So the bottom tray here, preferences, interface. Nope. Config. Enable customize. And then let me just grab some with little tiny things. So this is like, let's see, how can I keep stacking? Seems to be okay. Oh wait. Yeah, I think I can do that, if I'm understanding correctly. Book recommendations for anybody learning to model in ZBrush. I know some old books, but the thing about books is, boy, do they get outdated by the time they're printed. I really don't have any book recommendations, unfortunately. Yeah, so this is Houdini, and we were using the quad remesher and the Rhizome plugins to do our UVs and our quad remeshing. Of course, Houdini has stuff built in that'll do that as well. And if you're really good at Houdini, you can, find the information on your object and use that to really control the results that you're getting. What do you think about Blender? Is it a thing? Yes, I would say Blender's probably going to be the de facto modeler in the next 5 years. IMM Extractor is a new plugin. No, it's been there a few versions, but you have to, this is 2020.1, but you have to go in and install it. It doesn't install with your ZBrush. I haven't tried anything in Blender really. I mean, it's been on my list of things to do for about 5 years now. Houdini is just for processing stuff. I haven't really dug deep into the modeling tools yet. Although that's really, I mean, if you can do a procedural graph on just modeling, even better. Cool. Yeah. So I'm not really doing much of anything, and we're kind of running out of time. So let me, you know what? We did another version of the shark. That's what we did today. uh, and I'm not a character artist. I'm director of character art, which means my team does all the cool character stuff, and I get to watch them do it, which is cool. Which is cool. Yes. And yep, and also being able to cut your seams correctly. The Rhizome's pretty good at it by default, but there's a lot of control in there as well. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'm gonna go take these girls out, and I'll see you guys. I mean, I'll try and stream sometime again this month. We'll see how that goes. Sometimes I can, but I'm wrapping up a lot of videos here. So, cool. Thanks everybody, and have a good rest of your day.